Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for December 15th, 2009. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start the meeting with a quick introduction of board members, starting at the end with Mr. Recook.
My name's Walt Recook.
Scott Kilgore.
Gary Willis.
Sandy Jones. Marcia Parsons.
Todd Chernick.
John McRae.
First item on our agenda this evening is approval of the November action minutes. I can make a motion for approval of the November action minutes.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. I'd like to take a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? You didn't
Abstain. I wasn't here.
One abstention. Let the record show that the action minutes were approved by a vote of 6 with 1 abstention. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-legal board composed of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determinations. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by 4 considerations. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief, if granted, would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. A sign variance may only be approved under the following circumstance: where existing foliage or structures bring about a hardship whereby a sign meeting minimum letter size, square footage, and height requirements cannot be read from an adjoining public road. Our first primary variance for consideration this evening is B09-012, deferred to our November meeting. Staff could please represent.
Okay, I will do a summary. Okay, as I said, this is deferred from our November meeting. Site is located at 13045 to 13089 Highway 9 North. The requested variances are as follows: 1, to allow an additional primary monument sign. 2, to allow a primary monument sign to be internally illuminated. 3, to allow a primary monument sign to exceed the maximum allowable height. And 4, to allow a primary monument sign to exceed the maximum allowable square footage. This property is currently zoned C1, is approximately 18.25 acres. It's located in the Highway 9 Overlay District. The site is an approximately 428,000 square foot shopping center anchored by Super Target and Kohl's. There are 5 entrances to the site, 1 on Webb Road, 3 on Highway 9, and 1 on Deerfield Parkway. Currently, there is a primary monument sign located at the northernmost and southernmost Highway 9 entrances, and there's a secondary monument sign located on Webb Road, the Target entrance, and a secondary monument sign located at the Deerfield Road Kohl's entrance. All 4 of these signs are internally illuminated. Chapter 33.26.1b of the City Zoning Ordinance states that multi-tenant developments are allowed 1 primary monument sign for the overall development, which should not exceed a maximum surface area of 48 square feet and a maximum height of 12 feet. The development's first monument sign was permitted and built before the city's sign ordinance was changed. In October of 2008, a variance was approved allowing a second primary monument sign for Phase 2, which to match the original. Both signs are 64 square feet in size and 15 feet tall. The applicant is asking for a third primary monument sign in this variance. He has submitted two options for the sign. Option A is 15 feet tall, 64 square feet. Option B is 15 tall, 80 square feet. Section 21.1.s of the sign ordinance states that monument signs in the Highway 9 overlay shall be externally illuminated. The original primary and secondary monument signs were installed prior to the change in the city sign ordinance. The second primary and secondary monument signs received a variance in October 2008, allowing them to be internally illuminated. The applicant is now requesting that this new sign be internally illuminated as well. The applicant has indicated a justification for variance based on the following factors. Existing foliage or structures bring about a hardship whereby a sign meeting minimum letter size, square footage, and height requirements cannot be read from adjoining public roads. The applicant states that the main street entrance along State Route 9 was designed and developed with lavish greenery in a charming central area to create a pedestrian-friendly, smaller-scale feel than the typical big box type commercial center. The entrance point on the main street at the Highway 9 right-of-way is characterized by downward sloping topography from the Highway 9 street grade, inhibiting the visual sight lines from the roadway with the tree canopies and higher elevation of the structures lining the interior streetscape. The design of the entrance, along with the topographic changes at the right-of-way of Highway 9, significantly restrict visibility of the shops located at this central locale of the project, creating a hardship necessitating a variance. Recommended conditions. Should the board choose to approve this application, staff recommends the following conditions. Number one, that the sign shall be built per the submitted plans labeled option B, dated 7/29/2007. Includes the staff presentation.
Any questions for staff at this time? None being heard, is the applicant here?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wendy Butler. My business address is 7000 Central Parkway, Atlanta, Georgia 30039, and I am here with Brian Snelling from Sembler. The variance request this evening is for the monument sign that would serve the Main Street portion of the development, which is here in the center. And as Angela indicated, there are currently existing signs that serve both the northern and the southern end of this development. One point of clarification, though, it is a 47-acre development that was processed, permitted, and approved as two separate phases and two separate developments instead of being an 18-acre development. So just a minor point of clarification. And the requested variance is necessary because of the tree canopy that is throughout the parking area. And it kind of helps to see the canopy we have there. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with this from the last hearing. I'm just going to do a brief recap. Because of the tree canopy that occurs throughout the parking lot, because of the structures that occur here in the Main Street area and in the out parcels, and as we learned from our further due diligence from the four-board fence that actually runs along the Highway 9 corridor here. This was deferred from the November 17th hearing, specifically because we were requested to provide some additional information relative to the visual impairment, as well as a sign rendering so that we could clarify and be specific about exactly what would be there and how that would increase visibility for some specific shops. We have taken several videos from the driver's perspective driving up and down Highway 9 here. And if you bear with us, Brian will take you through that video because It does a great job of showing exactly what the height of someone sitting in a car driving at the speed limit will see as they are passing through here. And then in addition, after he's finished with that, we can show you the sign rendering and then just recap on where we're at with the standards. Okay?
At the speed limit where all the lights green as the video was taken?
Actually, because they did, sometimes they were
Several.
all green, sometimes they had to stop.
That's
They did
what I thought.
morning, noon, and evening so that you could see all three perspectives.
Great.
Yeah, I got, I think the morning pass, I think there was about 9 o'clock in the morning, so I think I caught all greens. The afternoon, I think I caught, around lunchtime, I caught a couple lights, and then I actually just did the one at night about an hour ago, so I caught a little bit more traffic then. I'll bring the mic over, I guess, so I can stay on record.
Brian, if you wouldn't mind, just for the record, just state your name and address, please, sir.
Brian Snelling with Sembler, 1450 South Johnson Ferry Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30319. And I passed out the two renderings. And I guess another point of clarification, I know the staff report says the monument sign, I believe option B is requested as 80 square feet, option A is at 64. They both should be 64. They're both, if you calculate them out, they're both 64 square feet, which is what we have out there now on the two phases. Two signs on each phase now. Yeah, I don't know. Do I have to hold the mic while for it to be on the record, I guess?
Yes.
All right. Should be able to do this. Oh, no, I'm good. All right. Actually, this one is the afternoon one. And what I did was, as I was driving my car, I held a video camera at about a 45-degree angle, went north, south, and then unrealistic, I held it at a 90 the entire time because you're not going to drive with your face out at 90 degrees. But I wanted to give both perspectives. And I was even kind enough to bring the video down below my rearview mirror so I wouldn't obviously put that obstruction in your way, even though it does count. So this is actually the afternoon run heading north at about a 45-degree angle. You can see the four-board fence actually blocks out most of the buildings. Traffic light.
And what kind of Spider were you in?
I was in a 2003 Nissan Maxima. Probably average car height.
Was no Lamborghini or something?
No, it wasn't anything.
It wasn't a little neon either.
Yeah. As you can see, I mean, some of those buildings in the back, and at a couple locations, actually one coming up right here, there will be a building built at this location where that sign is, and we have two out parcels that we have yet to develop, so there'll actually be two more buildings built up on the street. So that was north at about a 45-degree angle, then coming back south. No, probably about 42 right here.
Car sick yet?
Just a little bit.
And so the buildings in the back there are the ones at the end of Main Street that we were talking about that, as you get into this area, it gets very difficult to see those. And some of those signs on the back are the tenants, because of your 5% limit on the sign size for a tenant, some of the lettering back there is pretty small. So even if those buildings weren't there, it might even be difficult to see.
I can see that Sembler sign really clearly.
That's right up on the road, yeah. Trying to drum up business, trying to find taxpayers is what we're trying to do there.
Can you stop it somewhere right around here, if you don't mind?
Hit the space.
Only reason I'm asking, I mean, this is, again, this is winter time, you don't have any leaves on the trees.
Correct.
And what are the spacing on those trees that are along the street, do you recall?
I believe it's one every 25 or 30 feet in that landscape strip. And then if every parking lot island you see, which there's a double island every 5 parking spaces, each one of those islands has 2 trees in it as well.
So when I'm looking at these trees right here in the front, you've got a tree here, and you've got another tree that's kind of blocked by the traffic light pole. You got another one.
Yes, then there's another one just past it.
Okay.
And then those trees, they're still still fairly young trees because they were just planted within the past
Covas?
year or so. I don't remember what those are. I have to look at our landscape plan. But I think the 90-degree here, where I just held it at my eye level and pointed out my passenger window. You can really see this top rail of this 4-board fence. It comes into play on the sign band of almost every building. So even if you are driving along, you try to sneak a peek over. Our building 200 in the background right there. It blocks that entire sign band. There's Edwin Watts. It blocks that most of the way. It even gets up above Staples and then comes back down. You catch a shot of Bath and Body Works briefly right there, and then it blocks what we call Building 1000. It blocks that entire sign band right there as the top rail. Like I said, that's in my car, driving along, just looking out the window. And that fence was not something that is part of any of your ordinances or anything. That was what was kind of Christmas list of the city council in order to get our phase 2 zoning approved. And then we took it down and completed on phase 1, which I really like the fence. It's a good looking fence now. Glad we did it, but it also impairs visibility. And those buildings back there are the ones that we were mainly talking about as being the most blocked buildings on the site in that Main Street corridor. I don't know how much more you want to see. Continue? Okay. Again, these are the buildings in the back that are coming up that are the ones that are the most blocked by other structures, fence, and trees.
This is where you make us all think that our eyesight is really, really bad.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Cheap camera, I guess. So that was noon and nighttime. The only one I didn't show you was morning, but it was pretty much the same view, except going southbound, the actually sun comes up over the back of those buildings, so there was a pretty strong glare from the sun coming into the camera, which made it a little difficult to see. But I think you get an idea from that, those videos, what we were talking about with the trees. And then, like I said last time, we'd forgot to mention the added fence.
Only add briefly that it is an important point that right now you have the greatest visibility because the trees don't have the foliage on it, but also you have those breaks where you know that there's buildings back there because you can begin to see them, even though the split rail fence is right there at the line of sight where the signage is. But when the two buildings are added, that spacing occurs here and here. And when those two additional buildings are added pursuant to the site plan, you're not even going to have those large areas of opening to catch the fact that there are the buildings back there. And in addition to that, we also prepared two sign renderings. One of them consistent with option B that the staff had recommended, and one of them consistent with option A. And Brian has passed those out for you. They are both the same size and square footage. One is just more vertical, one is more horizontal. And that you've got 3 layers on the horizontal one with 9 panels, and on the more vertical one you have 10 panels. And the 10-panel one is the option B that the staff had recommended should you decide to approve this.
Any questions for the applicant?
I have a couple questions.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Brian, can you confirm which buildings in particular you're most concerned with as it pertains to not being able to be read from an adjoining public road? Which building numbers?
We call them building 600, 700, and 400 are the 3 main ones on this Main Street field that are in the back here, and that's our numbering system for them. So I would say the most critical ones are 600, 700, and 400.
Okay. And I noted those as being, for the record, 13077, 13083, and 13085 as the addresses. Is that 77, 83, and 85?
Yes, that's correct.
In our last meeting, the board expressed a concern about this being a recurring theme of, as you mentioned, you've got two additional out parcels yet to be built, and this being a recurring theme of asking for additional monument signs. Is Sembler agreeable to committing to this monument sign being used for those 3 addresses which we just described?
Talking about limiting them only to those addresses? I mean, to be honest with you, if it came down to that's the only condition to approve it, I mean, we would pretty much be forced to live with that, I guess. I mean, you know, I would think that would be where we would focus our attention on those three tenants. I'm not going to say that there couldn't be a possibility where maybe a tenant in the backside of this building, once it gets filled up, or, you know, if there's a tenant in the backside of this building, or, you know, if we split up this building and add a third, you know, another tenant there, that they wouldn't say they want to pay for a space on a monument sign, and that may override someone else in one of these buildings that doesn't want to pay for a monument sign. If they're willing to, you know, buy signage on the monument sign, you know, that's something that happens on properties.
Yeah, that's kind of what's gotten us into this predicament in the first place, right?
I don't think so.
Two anchor tenants dictating how much sign space they want, therefore bumping the amount of sign space that's available for other tenants.
Well, you could look at it that way, or you could look at it the way of, if you don't have the two anchor tenants, you don't have anything.
Right.
I mean, you have to do things to get them.
I'm from a signage standpoint.
Yeah. Well, you can't. I don't
I'm
think you
trying to
can.
figure out a way that
I think you got to look at it from an entire development standpoint. Is what I'm
trying
trying
to
to
look
say.
at a way where we can stop this recurrence of monument sign needs. And my opinion as a board member is looking at the signs that have currently been allocated, as you've shown in the packet here. Those are for establishments that are visible from the street. Petco, Staples, Hibbett, Dots, those are all facing Highway 9 sites that are visible. So that was a similar decision to do that. So I'm trying to come up with a solution that meets your needs, but also meets the city's needs of not having this becoming a recurring theme where you want a fourth monument sign at some later date.
Well, I can tell you, I would be comfortable saying that Sembler would not come and ask for a variance for a fourth monument sign.
Okay.
We have 3 driveways. We have one already because of the way the property was done, and this is the only monument sign variance that I've ever asked for. This monument sign was allowed. I asked for the Phase 2 sign to match the Phase 1 sign, but that's the only variance that I've asked for a monument sign, but it was already an allowed monument sign. So this is the first time I've ever come and asked for an additional monument sign. It is for our 3rd driveway. This site plan is a little incorrect because this driveway you see here is not there. So that's an old plan like we told you last month. I can flip it and show you the most current plan. But that's our 3rd driveway. It's the only other driveway on Highway 9. You know, I am comfortable saying that Sembler will not come and ask for a variance for a 4th monument sign for this property. For these small tenants, and you know there's a lot that goes into this development of this size, trying to bring these tenants in to get your majors, which draw the smalls, and so you know if you want, I can go through an entire history of how these things come about, but you know it is the monument signs are allocated, and if you do notice, most of the tenants that are on the monument signs are all the ones that are in the back. Target's in the back, Petco's in the back, Staples in the back, Hibbett's, Famous Footwear, all those are in the back of the center, the farthest away from the road. With the exception of Kohl's, but they're an anchor. So,
But from a sign rights standpoint, big or small, they all have the same rights. From a visibility standpoint, that's what we're trying to come to a compromise on. And I appreciate the points you've made. One other point that I had for either the applicant or the staff, I seem to recall on the Phase 2 monument sign, we had a condition about the timing of when those lights were to be illuminated and when they were to be extinguished. Do you recall the specific condition on that, either one of you?
I don't.
They had to go off at
2 hours after closing or something like
That
that.
sounds familiar.
after the last tenant closed.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be acceptable for us to put a similar condition in here? Should the board agree to a sign that we have the lighting illumination condition consistent with the Phase 2 variance? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all my questions.
I've done a lot of studying of signs lately. Have you gone down Windward Parkway nearest 400? There's a shopping center right there. I think it's got LA Fitness in it and CVS and H. Gregg and a number of those through there. just looking at those locations, it looks like they have a lot more signage than what I'm seeing here. And that's kind of what I was kind of hoping you guys would really be looking at. What is our ultimate goal? What do we really need? I know you're trying to keep your tunnel vision. Well, we got a driveway. We need to have it. I don't think they always have their signs at driveways. They kind of have them throughout their properties. And it doesn't matter to me. I just want to make sure that whatever we do, we want to help businesses succeed in our community. We really do. At least that's my desire. I'd like them to succeed. At the same time, I would like to make sure there's a little bit of class, a little bit of good look. If this is what you want, and this is really the ultimate goal, then I can see and understand how the trees and the fence create problems. But I just want to make sure, like I said last month, is this really everything you want and need? And that's the real issue. We hope by postponing it, you'd come back and really look at that, and whether it's more signage on the side streets or the front. But I see what somebody else did in another area. I'm speaking as one person, but I can see how this could work and understand the need for it.
I mean, I would say that Sembler has done a very good job working within the city's system. I mean, I didn't ask for multi-tenant variances for signs on the side streets. And as we were talking, through the rezoning and through the development and through the permitting and everything else, there are probably numerous ordinances. I mean, most of your city ordinances aren't written for a 50-acre multi-tenant development. I mean, it doesn't apply. And so that's why some of the variances, that we've asked for, we've tried to benefit our tenants. But I haven't been in here asking for a variance for every little line item. I mean, we've tried to pick the ones that we thought were the most important, got us the biggest bang for the buck, got us the most benefit for our tenants, and this is one of them. Now I have no way to say that a year from now, 5 years from now, a different owner of the property would think that maybe there's something else that they want to see. Or I know you guys, the city is continuously changing the ordinances too, which is where we got caught halfway between the two monument signs that we have that were allowed under the ordinance, but it changed. So to make our shopping center consistent, was necessitated the need for that other variance that we thought. So, but right now, this is the one that we think, and I don't know, it's been probably a year or so since 2 years since we actually did that rezoning on phase 2. Other than that banner variance I was in here for the tenants, that was a long time I've been in here. So that's
one point of clarification, though, to make sure that we don't end up having to come back should you decide to approve. The request is for a 15-foot height sign beginning at grade, not because there is a 7 to 8 foot drop, so that the current sign would have to be down in there. So we're talking about a 15-foot sign as measured from the right-of-way grade. And just if there's any clarification that needs to be made by that, should you decide to approve, that would certainly keep us from getting caught up in some unintended.
You're saying the actual sign will be taller if you measure it from the base of the sign.
Correct.
And that's what I wrote out in the request, because when you come in off of Highway 9 at that entrance, the driveway comes at a gradual slope in, but the two banks on either side drop immediately. And so where we would have to mount the sign to stay, I think, outside the landscape strip and off the right-of-way, the required distance of your ordinance, which the other two signs are, by that point it gets about, I think, 8 to 9 feet below Highway 9 where the actual current grade is. And so, digging down footings, building up your base, and then getting these panels up to where they offer some benefit to drivers. The exact height of that sign would be hard to determine right now, but what we would try to figure out is Highway, and on the next sheet I think I have some topography, Highway 9 I believe is roughly at maybe 1095 above sea level, so roughly from that distance, which the other two signs are roughly there as well, and so from there up.
Are Are you going to pull your fence back so you're not blocking your sign from either direction?
I think the fence stops short of, because we've got the crosswalks and everything, and we'd have to evaluate that, but we'd have to look at that. But I think going northbound, there's going to be a part where you can't take it back enough, but we would look at that, but I don't think we would have to remove any fence.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
I don't think we would, but we would try to look at that as we were evaluating installation.
Brian, did you say you had a topo on the next sheet?
It's in this insert right here. 94, 87,
Here's the driveway in question. Highway 9 is roughly at 1,095 feet above sea level. The driveway slopes 94, 92, 90, 88, 86, dropping in. But then the slope is significantly steeper here and here. And actually, I believe where we would prefer it is right in this area. I do have some storm structure that I have to worry about. If not, we would try to move it to this side. But to keep it consistent with the other signs, this sign is on the north side of this driveway. The Phase 2 sign is on the north side of that driveway. We'd like to try to keep it consistent. But there's power lines, there's gas lines, there's storm line, there's lots of utilities that we would need to work around, and I think we can get around them. But I would like to put it right there. And that elevation currently is approximately 1086. So you're looking at about 9 feet below Highway 9 right there where where the grade is.
I have a question. The purpose of the sign is to get people into the development or to give them directional once they're there?
The purpose of the sign is to offer the tenants that currently don't have monument signage, that are currently blocked in the back there, an opportunity to be a sign on the street to catch people as they're driving by. Once you get in the center, all the driveways take you to the back, and so we feel like internal directional signage is not as important right now as getting people in the center, the drive-bys that are going up and down Highway 9 that may not see those buildings in the back, may not know who's back there. They can drive by and see that Rousson's is there, or the nail place is there, or one of the other tenants is there, the karate place is there. As they're heading north or south on the highway, if they catch over and glance and see the sign, maybe they'll think, okay, I'll need to go in there and eat at Rousson's.
You said part of the problem was the size of the signage on the buildings in the back?
That is one factor as far as those buildings being so far back, and the way the sign ordinance is written, there's no minimum sign size. Your limits there's a maximum, but a tenant's only allowed 5% of their wall area or 100 square feet, whatever's less. Well, some of these tenants, they lease 1,000 square feet or 1,200 square feet. Their frontage may be 18 feet wide or 20 feet wide in a 20-foot tall building. 5% of that is, about 20 square feet, maybe 18 square feet. In order to put a sign up and have letters, and to fit within it's a 2-foot tall by 10-foot wide, or a 3-foot tall by 7-foot, 6.5-foot wide sign. So those letters get difficult to see from the street.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Is there any public comment? No public comment. All right, anything else, either one of you'd like to add? Anything?
No thanks.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
All right.
Any questions for staff? Okay, then at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing portion, and the floor is open for a motion. Yes, Mr. Rico?
I'd like to make a motion for approval of V09-12. Basically, the reason being is that there are trees and obstructions of building based on the design that precludes the ability to see the signage on the buildings, and therefore would like to grant them request to allow an additional primary monument sign, to allow a primary monument sign to be internally illuminated, to allow a primary mounted sign to exceed the maximum allowable height, and to allow a primary monument sign to exceed the maximum allowable square footage. And this is based on the plan prepared by Dinesh Signs, dated December 15th, 2009. And then I would also consider making that illumination to be in compliance with the zoning variance that we granted for the sign near the Coles last year.
Okay, second. Discussion?
I have a question. Walt, were you referring to the top design or the bottom design on these two?
I'm sorry, I was referring to, I think it's called design for letter B, I believe, which I believe is the 5 or 10 unit sign.
Top.
That's the one the staff recommended, and I
top
said,
one, right?
Top one, okay.
Yes, sir.
so that's when I was.
Any discussion?
You in discussion?
Walt, you mentioned that the rationale for the approval was that there's foliage and trees and building obstructions. Yet we didn't state which buildings were actually obstructed.
Sure, if you'd like me to, I will. And again, like you said, I think we're kind of at a disadvantage. I don't know the exact addresses of the buildings, but
I have
the
those.
location of the sign, I guess I should also emphasize that. It's the driveway just north of, north of the Target's main entrance is where that sign is being placed. And basically the sign is being, or the area for the sign faces are obstructing that group of buildings there towards the center that are causing the problem. So it's it's the third driveway north of
Webb Road.
Webb Road. It's the third driveway north of Webb Road.
This is the first. This is
One,
the second.
well, it shows 1,
Oh, you're right.
2, 3, third driveway north of Webb Road, and it's those buildings that are off of that third driveway. And again, as the applicant mentioned, there's also a grade change that creates a problem as well, as much as 13-foot difference. And the fence also caused some of that obstruction as well.
So you're comfortable adding that the purpose would be for those buildings there that are
Absolutely.
obstructed? Okay.
Yes, sir. If you want more definition of
Thank you.
So are you proposing a friendly amendment, or are you wanting?
I thought he was just
Just
appending
clarification.
his-
Clarification, okay.
you know,
Any other discussion?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to move to amend. I would move that we would strike the second bullet, the bullet that allows the primary monument sign to be internally illuminated. And I've got several reasons that I'd like to discuss that if I can get a second for discussion.
Second.
The applicant has stated and has certainly built a development that has the design characteristics of lavish, we've heard the terms, lavish greenery, pedestrian friendly, small shops, Main Street feel. And I believe that an externally illuminated sign would serve to support these existing design characteristics. I think it would be a lot classier looking. I think that's why our ordinance requires external illumination. I would also say that the internal illumination of this sign does nothing to mitigate this hardship. The reason that I believe this motion is, the original motion is on the floor, is because we are in agreement that there is a hardship that we're trying to mitigate with this variance. And I believe that upholding the portion of the ordinance that requires external illumination would go a long way to support the design characteristics of the development and that the city is trying to enforce with its ordinance. So that's why I think that we ought to, I guess, hold the line on that one aspect of it. I just don't see that piece of it is assisting in this mitigation. So I'd look for some support on that.
Any other discussion?
I have some questions about the feasibility of eliminating the height of this sign and going down with the lighting externally to show up all the lettering because of the height. You probably have to project so far out. I mean, somebody give me some input here.
And I kind of agree with what you're doing is you're going to have a light that's going to come out over the top as well as some light coming out of the bottom to light it up. Plus, you're potentially, unfortunately, you're going to have so much light you can overwash a sign. And I always like to use the example of our exit sign right here by our entrance or exit. And, externally lit would be the best way to go. Then all the exit signs would be lit that way. They're not. They're internally lit. So you can get the best visual view of those signs. I think the purpose of the code saying externally lit probably has more to do with more of the smaller places than something this large. And I see a place for both, and I understand if it was a community monument sign or if it was something along that line, but I think it's a much bigger product that makes it a little bit harder to do. And I think you're well, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think the application in this case may make it a little bit more difficult.
I would agree that it's more difficult to do. It's probably more costly as well, but I'm not sure that hardship is what we're asked to. That's not a hardship. That's not part of the hardship. And I just don't, I agree it's going to be more difficult to do, but I don't see that, at least in my opinion, that changes the fact that the ordinance states external lighting, and I personally would like to see that upheld.
I've got a couple comments. Number one, I think for the city of Milton, uniformity is extremely important. I think they have two illuminated signs from the inside. If we take the third one and light them from the outside, it's going to look so different from the other two that it's not going to look good for the city of Milton. And my other thing is, and Marcia said this, when you're putting lights at the top that come all the way out and lights at the bottom that come all the way out, it's really easy for kids to go up at night and turn those things and face them right towards the street, because that's what they did to my signs in the city of Alpharetta, and they made me come down and illuminate it and take a whole new sign down, because kids were going out that night and turning the signs toward the lights toward the street, and if they go into the street and cause car wrecks, then everybody goes absolutely crazy. So I'm kind of against illuminating signs from the outside that are this big. If this was a little dinky 2x2 sign, it wouldn't matter. But these are going to have to come out 8-10 feet and up 8 to 10 feet this way to illuminate all 10 of those the same. So those are my two reasons for illuminating from the inside, for safety reasons, for uniformity.
Any other discussion? None being heard, we'll take a vote on the friendly amendment to remove the second bullet item to allow primary monument signs to be eternally illuminated. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Let the record show that the amendment did not pass by a vote of 6 to 1. Back to the primary motion on the table to approve the 09-012 option B on the site plan dated 12/15/2009.
Every step discussion.
Go back to discuss. Go ahead.
I personally feel like A is a much better option. It has a little bit larger lettering size if you look at the dimensions within the boxes. And I think as that grows taller because of the elevations, it's going to look more appropriate. The other's just going to look so tall.
Well, you can kind of see the difference with the existing two monument signs. One is option A and one is option B. The existing signs, you can see it, the difference.
Which one looks better?
I I support your conclusion that the 9-panel looks more balanced and
And the lettering will be larger,
more useful.
one less sign on the panel there.
I have a question. That might have been best directed to the applicant, but I heard the young lady mention that the 64 square foot was going to be uniform throughout all these monument signs. And could somebody explain that to me? I missed last month. So is it? I mean, I know that these two aren't 64 square feet because you got one that's 10'6" across and one that's 12'6". They're both 15 feet high. So is that intended to match the?
I think the
The
signage
signage area
It's
itself.
the signage
area
Box.
itself, okay.
The box.
It's the panels.
And that's what's currently in place as well. 64. Okay.
Yes.
Good question.
Well, let's move forward and,
Oh, wait a second. I think if we're going
can
to,
we make a friendly amendment, or
You
we
wanna
can
make-
vote on the original
Okay.
one, and then we can restate a motion
no,
I think we
we
need to
need to amend the
amend it.
original.
Okay.
We need to amend the original.
to make a motion to amend.
I'd like to amend the motion on the table to have the signage reflect option A rather than B,
Which is the 9-panel.
which is the 9-panel with the larger space for lettering.
Second. Discussion? Yes, Mr. Recup?
I guess since I made the motion, I guess I should be able to defend it to some degree. But again, I guess the biggest thing is if this is what the applicant is concerned about, is getting signage for their tenants, I'm looking at giving them optimum amount of ability to get signage out there, no matter if it's big or small. Being a male, I hate to ask directions, and I get lost quite often. I have to drive by something at least twice, and if I'm given an option of having one extra sign out there, that might guide me, so I don't have to ask directions. That's the only thing I can say, but again, I think being narrower is also a little bit more elegant. I'm not saying bigger isn't better, but it does give you a little bit of a more concise grouping. And I'm not concerned about the visibility. Again, if you guys go out to Windward and you see where H.H. Gregg and some of the other ones are, I want to say it's smaller than this, is what they've got. They've got one line that basically says the name of H.H. Gregg. It has all these businesses that are very, and when I say small, it's all relative when you're going 40 miles an hour. But there's a number of them all stacked in 2 rows, just like this sign B is. It seems to work fine. When you start stacking them by 3, your eye's going to have to do a little bit more work to do it. But again, it doesn't really matter to me. I was just really looking at where can I get optimum amount of signage out of a sign. That's why I felt B might be, and I also heard staff say B. So that's the direction I headed in.
Any other discussion? None being heard, let's take a vote on the friendly amendment to change the sign for consideration from option B to option A, site plan dated 12/15/2009. All those in favor of the friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed?
I like B.
Thanks, Guy.
You made a good point.
You did make a good point, but I propose it, so.
Let the record show that the friendly amendment did not pass by a vote of 6 to 1. Go back to our original motion on the table to approve V09-012 for option B as reflected in the site plan dated 12/15/2009. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Let the record show that V09-012 was approved and by a vote of 6 to 1. Thank you. Next primary variance for consideration is V09-014, 15807 Winterfield Way, the Manor. Staff could please present.
allow a house to exceed the maximum allowable height. The site, 15807 Winterfield Way, is zoned AG1 and is located in the Manor West subdivision. The property consists of 2.3 acres and is located in the Northwest Fulton Overlay District. Currently, the property is undeveloped, and there are no homes on either side of the applicant's lot. The applicant, Mr. Ricky Knuckles, plans to build a 7,144 square foot, 4-story home for himself and his family on this property. The home is proposed to be 49.6 feet tall. Article 5.1.3A states that no building on AG1 zone property shall exceed 40 feet in height. The applicant is therefore requesting a variance to allow this increase in height. The staff held a focus meeting on October 1st, 2009. Building plan review, site plan review, the arborist, DOT stormwaters all had no issues. Standards for consideration. The applicant has indicated a justification for variance based on the following factors. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance, and B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant, and C, relief, if granted, would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties, and D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured, that substantial justice is done. The applicant addresses the conditions as follows. The construction of the proposed 7,144 square foot, 4-story family dwelling will not deface nor devalue the integrity of the Manor subdivision, since there is an existing 4-story dwelling currently present within the subdivision. The issuance of this height variance would not detrimentally alter the surrounding neighborhood, but will increase the integrity. The construction of this home will enhance the community. If this variance is not granted, the denial would cause an unnecessary hardship for the applicant and his family, since the funding for the lot and the home is a package and cannot be transferred in totality nor in part. The funding may not be transferred to another lot, nor can the dwelling be substituted. Should the board choose to approve this application, staff recommends the following conditions. The home shall be built on lot 424 for the house plan submitted November 3rd, 2009, with final approval by the City of Milton Building Department. This concludes staff's presentation.
Any questions for staff? Yes, sir, Mr. Rico.
Just to make sure I understand, is this a 4-story structure that includes a basement, or is this a 4-story structure that's excluding the basement and it's just that portion above the first floor living area? I'm just trying to understand what the 4 stories mean.
It's 4 stories, but it's open on 3 sides, so we have to count that basement.
Okay, so it is the basement. And the measurement, I know a lot of jurisdictions have different ways of measuring building height. Can you explain how the height is measured?
It's the mean height from grade to the roof, grade to, I guess, the top of the front, the 4th story, and then it's the mean height from that top of the 4th story to the top of the roof. So we don't measure all the way to the top of the roof because that's basically
So you do the center of the gable is typical term. The center of the gable is, if you have a triangle, it's that portion that's at the center of that.
Right.
Okay. And as far as the elevation goes, is it purely at the front of the house, not averaged along the sides or rear of the house? It's just at the front?
From the front of the house, basically where the street would start.
Okay. And does it have any difference if the streets, the lot where the house is going on the lot is either above or below the street?
It would if the grade was different. In this case, it's flat. So.
And when you say it could be different, is Is there some kind
And
of?
if it was, had to go up a hill, we would take the measurement like from the top of the hill.
Okay. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding how it's interpreted. And what is his actual request? What is the height?
I believe it's 49.6 feet was our measurement. 49.6 feet, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? No? Okay. The applicant, please present. Thank you.
Is that it? Or-
Yes, and state your name and address.
Okay, my name is Ricky Knuckles Sr., and my address is 1911 Donna Place, Decatur, Georgia. And based on, I believe, the difference in the height as Ms. Rambo measured, I believe the difference is only like 6.5 feet, the difference in the actual height that we're really requesting. Although on that particular lot, 424, the contour, it slopes down because the street goes down at an angle. So it's not like it's at the top of the hill where it would be an eyesore, because the contour, it does slope down. I believe it's a difference of about 9 feet from the top to the bottom where the actual lot exists.
Any questions for the applicant, Mr. Rico?
I went out to that lot to kind of look at it myself, and I know it does look like from the street towards where the house goes, it does look like it's sloping away. And just looking at your contour lines on this plan, it looks like it's dropping, looks like 2, 4, almost 6 foot before it gets to the front of the house. So what you're saying is if it is 49 and it is dropping down 6 foot,
The difference is only like 6 inches then.
and, but I guess my question is, are you, I know like when I set my basement for my house, I went to the very lowest grade of the rear of where the basement is because I wanted to dig that out.
Yes, sir.
And daylight, my basement not have subwalls.
Right.
So is that what you're proposing to do? Is
Yes, sir.
okay. And so then you'll go in with your either 8 or 10 foot walls or
It'd be
whatever
10 foot.
Okay, so you can have a nice basement and build it up. On the type of architectural plan you chose, could you look at any other type of roof? I know you've got your 10-12 pitch, and it looks like it's pretty consistent. Is this more or less in keeping with the neighborhood? Is that the reason?
Yes, sir. And the other thing is that the drawings that we've done, we have to go before the committee there once this is approved, and then they will modify the elevation of the house to match that's already existing.
And who is that review? Was there a review architect? I know
Yes,
that
sir.
most.
It's RHF, and his name is Scott Morrissey, I believe,
Okay.
and he's the principal. Can I have his number here if you want to?
And did he approve this plan already?
Well, no, actually, he's going to modify it once the height variance is approved.
Okay. But he won't be able to modify it to make it bigger. He can maybe modify it to do something smaller. But,
Well, actually, the only thing he's going to do is alter the elevations to match the existing. But again, I mean, it's useless for us to have him to pay $1,500 for him to do that, and then the board say no, that the height variance is not approved.
Okay. And it looks like you've got a beautiful detention pond back there too, which makes it a little bit harder perhaps to sell. So you've got to do something to make it look a little bit better
Yes.
perhaps. Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
So the language in your request for variance indicated that the funding, I guess your plans are tied to the funding of the project in some way. Could you expound upon that?
Yes, sir. The loan that was available, it was for that particular lot and this particular floor plan. And we can't go back if it's not approved and say, hey, we can't build this house. And we had a similar problem, well, I had another problem over in Stone Mountain where it was a customer. It wasn't our house that we were building personally. And they purchased a lot that was in a FEMA floodplain. And 9,000 square feet is the minimum that a 3-bedroom house can be built. And this particular house only had, I believe, like 6,500 usable soil. And so my customer ended up losing the lot and defaulting on the loan because Countrywide wouldn't allow us to go to transfer the loan to another lot to accommodate the house, because when they bought the house, I didn't have any involvement in them purchasing the house in a FEMA floodplain, which it was in DeKalb County. All of the variances were done, and I came in sort of secondhand, if you may, to take over, but then the soil testing was never done on the front end, which I was unaware of it. I just thought that they needed the variances approved in order to build the structure on the lot that was purchased.
Okay. I'm no lawyer, but I guess my question is, if your funding's tied to a plan that is not in compliance with the zoning ordinance of the city in which it's supposed to be built, I'm not sure that they could impose that condition on you. Does that sound right or no?
Well, I'm not really sure, sir. I know what has happened in the past, and this particular customer defaulted on their loan because it was not transferred. They could not transfer the loan, which was a $730,000 package, which was the purchase of the lot and to build the structure, the residential structure. Because the lot was unbuildable, they would not allow us to transfer the house to another lot because it came as a package. So the loan and the cost of the lot.
Just so I'm 100% clear, you couldn't, not only could you not alter the height of the home by bringing it down 9 feet so that it's in compliance, you also could not adjust the grade in any way?
No, we can adjust the grade. I mean, like the gentleman, Mr. Riku, we can go down an additional, whatever's needed, we can go below grade because, like I say, it's sloped down. And basically, it's the difference of 6 feet, 6 inches. But we can go below grade as far as the basement. We can go lower to accommodate the height. And when we rode through, I apologize for my appearance, but I just got back from Tampa and came straight here. But I have pictures of another house that's in the Manor East where, if I may pass it around, where it is a 4-story house that's existing there.
And sir, this house will be your primary, is going to be your residence?
Well, it's my son and my daughter-in-law. They will live there. Yes, sir.
It looks like you do have one limitation, and maybe I see it because I'm an engineer. In your detention pond, the 100-year floodplain elevation is at 1054.4. And basically, your basement elevation you're showing on the plans you have here is at 1057.0. So you're trying to keep the house, with 2'6" freeboard, so you don't have potential for getting flooded by that detention pond. So you have a hardship where you can't go down much further because of that detention pond.
Yes,
if it was some other kind of lot where you could dig dirt out or do something, it's a little bit hard to get it too much lower with the potential to get flooded by that facility.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, sir. Any public comment? Okay, none being heard. Any final questions or clarifications for the applicant? Is there anything you'd like to add, closing? Any questions for staff? Okay, at this point, then I'd like to close public hearing for B09-014, and the floor is open for a motion. Yes, sir, Mr. Rico.
I would like to make a motion for approval of V09-014 to allow the structure to be at a maximum height of 49.4 feet and 49.6, feet, And the reason for it is basically the hardship of the detention pond plus the topography being very flat. That doesn't give them the ability to go much lower and sink the house, and also keeping in standard with the rest of the community. I don't think this is going to detract, and I think it will be compatible with the rest of the community.
Second. Discussion?
Well, could you clarify that, what lot and what house plan
Oh,
dated?
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
If I may amend it to mention, it's based on a plan prepared by CAD Draft and Design, dated, at least the drawing that I have, it's
Lot 424.
It's lot 424 on plan submitted on November 3rd, 2009. And again, it's from an architectural plan by CAD Draft and Design. And on that plan, it's dated, drawings is September 3rd, 2009. And I guess it's basically A1, A2, S1, A3, A4, A5, A6 of the plans. I'm sorry, it's good.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I went out and took a picture of it. I'm leaning toward approval of this as well, but I just wanted to make note of the fact that this is at the end of a cul-de-sac, but it's also quite visible from Hopewell Road, and it is uphill from Hopewell Road, so this is going to be a pretty big addition to the landscape there as you drive down that road. I think it's going to be a beautiful home, but obviously one man's castle is another man's eyesore. So just I'm still kind of wrestling with that, just because it's right there.
Will it be higher than those power lines?
Well, the tip of the roof might be in that angle. I'm not sure. It's going to be pretty tall because it is uphill from there. You can see that house, and that's the house that it would be right next to. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up since I went out and took the picture.
And the distance is 121 feet from the edge of the right-of-way, so it's not like it's right next to the street, but...
Well, that's actually not that street I'm worried about, or is this?
It is.
This
It's Hopewell,
Hopewell? Oh,
yeah.
okay, I'm with
So
you.
it's 121 feet from the edge of the
Right,
right-of-way, so...
It's not right on the other side of the fence or anything.
No,
but,
no.
Scott?
Yes.
Don't you think that they'll do some vegetation and some buffering and things?
Yes.
walls and things and stuff to
Well, but
mitigate
it's the tip of the roof that we're discussing. I think, yeah, maybe we could require some buffering or something. I'm just really just throwing it out for discussion. I really have not come to any conclusions myself. Just a concern.
Any other discussion? All right, none being heard, I'd like to take a vote.
I'm sorry, did we get a second on that?
I did, I seconded. No further discussion being heard. Let's take a vote on approval for, the motion is for approval of B09-014. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, let the record show that the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, good luck to your future homeowner. We're glad you chose Milton.
Six primary variances, B09-015, 13-215 Birmingham Highway. Staff to please present.
B09-015, the requested variance is to allow an accessory structure to encroach into the rear setback. The site, 13215 Birmingham Highway, is zoned AG1. The property consists of 1.67 acres and is located in the Northwest Fulton Overlay District. Currently, the property contains one single-family residential home, and I wanted to add, the property is located at the corner of Birmingham Highway and Spring Falls Road, and I just wanted to note that Spring Falls Road is a gravel road. The applicant John Griffith built a three-sided 12 by 24 structure at the rear of his property for the storage of yard tools and equipment. The structure is located 116 feet from the side and 5 feet from the rear property line, placing it in the rear setback. This structure was built without a City of Milton building permit. Article 5.1.3.1 states that accessory structures may be located in the rear or side yards, but shall not be located within a minimum yard. The minimum rear yard in AG1 is 50 feet. Mr. Griffith is asking permission to allow the storage structure to remain where it is. Additional department comments. The staff held a focus meeting on December 4th, 2009, at which the following comments were provided. Building plan review. The applicant will need to obtain a building permit for the structure. Site plan review, no issues. Arborist, there's not enough room between the structure and the fence. This is the back of the structure. Plant trees. Arborist student noted, shrubs may be possible. DOT stormwater review had no issues. The applicant has indicated a justification for variance based on the following factors. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. The structure is in harmony with the property and neighboring properties in both its location and its architecture. B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. There is no other suitable site on my property to locate the structure to, which would not require the granting of a variance to the setback. The topography of the property did not offer another level location that would allow a natural floored structure to be constructed that would not face the residence in an unnatural and or awkward angle, require the removal of a 40-foot tall pecan tree, or be placed in extremely close proximity to the residence. C, relief if granted would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. The structure is not visible from either Birmingham Highway or Spring Falls Road. The owner of the property directly behind mine appreciates the privacy the structure offers from the view of their home. D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. This structure does not impose a threat to the public safety and or welfare. Should the board choose to approve the application, staff recommends the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain a building permit and pay applicable fees for starting work without a permit. And two, the applicant should remove the original structure on the other side of the property along Spring Falls Road. And I do believe I have that. Yes, I also have copies of 2 letters from neighbors. I don't know if I included those in your packet.
Ms. Rambo, I've actually got one more. One of my other concerned neighbors ran by the house last night and brought me one more letter.
Okay, so we have 3 letters from neighbors giving their approval to the variance request. And that concludes staff presentation.
Oh, sorry, please, yes, questions for staff?
And how did the city come to the fact that this was already built? How did we find out about this?
Someone several months ago, I'm assuming a neighbor called and I guess reported it to code compliance. We never found out who that was. We don't know who it is, but they've called several times since then.
Thank you.
I have a fairly good idea.
I'm sure you do.
I only have 4 neighbors, 3 of which who have written glowing recommendations that you grant my variance request, and the one silent partner at the very end of the road who, for whatever reason, I have no idea, chose to pick up the phone and call and complain about the structure. Can't see it from their property, can't see it from the road. They must have been sneaking around in my backyard. That's the only thing I can figure.
Are there any other questions for staff at this time? Okay, anything for, yes, sir, if you want to expand on what Ms. Rambo will present some more information.
Well, first of all, my name's John Jeffrey Griffith. All my friends call me Jeff. I live at 13215 Birmingham Highway in Alpharetta, Georgia. In fact, I believe this was the first building permit issued in the new city of Milton. So we were the very first ones in town. Basically, I don't have another spot on this yard where I could have put this particular structure. The topography on the lot that we have there drops approximately 15 feet from one side to the other. There's no other level spot where I could have put this thing. The setbacks on either side, if you look at the left side of the house, it's 40 feet on the left side, so no opportunity to put anything there. I've got 50 feet on the back, which would, had I have built this structure inside the 50-foot setback, would have put this structure about 45 feet off my back porch, which wouldn't have looked very nice. When you go to the right side, I've got a 35-foot setback there because I have a 14-foot easement for a driveway for the home behind me, another 25 feet on top of that, and the topography goes straight down from that point. The septic tank and the drain field for the house is on the right side there, so no opportunity to put a building there without interfering with the septic tank. So I mean, literally, I had no other spot to go except for what was the old driveway that went from Birmingham Highway all the way back to the residence that you see behind me. Since that was the old driveway and we did have it scraped up, it had about 6 inches of rock up under it, so there was no growing anything there. There was no getting anything back up. In fact, I had a really good time with the auger trying to get the holes dug to put footers in to begin with. So it in my opinion, was the only spot to put this thing. Unfortunately, I was unaware that there were such a thing as a setback. I've learned an awful lot about setbacks and other things over the past several months. So, look, I apologize in advance for having done that. It's just not something that I, or probably even the common homeowner, would have thought to ask, not living in a subdivision and having to go through the HOA and these sorts of things. So I throw myself on the mercy of the panel here. Didn't mean to do anything out of line. We'll be more than happy to pay whatever fines and fees are applicable to obtain the proper building permits for this thing, if y'all would be so kind as to please grant this variance so I don't have to tear this thing down and move it.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Yes.
Well, could I see a copy of these letters from the homeowners? I just want to make sure, you know, is the tenor positive or is it just a very short, yes, or he has great parties and
you know, strangely enough, nobody has actually even been to my house. Not a single neighbor.
I got one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Have you removed the original storage structure yet?
The original, no. That ugly shed that you see sitting here that Ms. Rambo had alluded to needed to be torn down was the original reason for building this particular one, because that one is absolutely an eyesore.
You don't have a problem tearing that down?
Oh, absolutely not. It was the original intent to begin with.
Thank you.
Was to build this new one to tear that one down.
Yes.
I have a question. I'm looking at in the packet of page 12 of 19, and there's a home just on the back side of
Yes,
the
sir.
structure you built.
Mhm.
Is that homeowner in support of
Absolutely.
the structure?
The Mr. Jenkins, who owns that home, and he also owns the 16 acres on the left side of me. If you're facing my property, he owns the 16 acres and the home there that's currently being remodeled. He bought the house and the land behind me to live in while he is doing this particular project. And David Pure, who owns the 18 acres to the right of me, are all my surrounding neighbors, the only people that have any view of this thing whatsoever. Yes, sir.
May I ask you why you chose the color red?
Because it fit with the.
Georgia fan or anything.
It's barn red. Okay, it's barn red because as I drove around and looked and tried to get some ideas as to what other people had built in their yard, so that it did keep with the theme of kind of the horse farm community. Many of them were painted that color, and all of them had tin roofs. So I tried to stick to what other people had done, since I had built basically a farmhouse style home there on that property.
And if we asked to have that painted to be the same color as your fence, to maybe make it blend in a little bit better, would you feel that would be appropriate? I know your other neighbors didn't seem like they had a problem, but just looking at the fence and things like that.
I would paint it purple with yellow polka dots if you said that I did not have to move that thing.
I did have a neighbor who had multiple colors of paint, put them all together, and that's what he used, was purple, and that's what it made. And so that's why I was wondering. But I just thought that was maybe the only other thing I could think of, that if we could make it softer in some way.
Yes, sir.
This is just curiosity, it has nothing to do with how I'm going to put it in this case. Is this little spindly pecan tree really 40 feet?
No, that's not the little. That's a different tree.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I sent several pictures. The one that we're looking at here, the base of it's about yay big around.
Okay.
And it's one of the 3 pecan trees that I've got on this property. One of them's a little baby, and this one's a middle-sized one. I've got one huge one out front that's already bearing fruit, and I can't tell you how many pounds of pecans off that thing last year. I thought it was good to have one.
That's great.
Any public comment?
I got a question for you.
Oh,
Mr.
sorry.
Griffith, did
Yes.
you consult with your neighbor to the rear before you built this shed?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, the home that you see behind us, the folks who actually own that, Bob Cook and Rita Mandel, actually sold us the lot that we built the house on. So when they bought this entire piece of property, it was the older home back there and the 4 acres. They cut the front 1.67 off, sold it to us, and they had that piece of property for sale from the time that we bought the front half of the lot. We did consult with them before we dug the first hole, and they had no issue with it, even though they were in the midst of trying to sell the thing.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Any public comment? None being heard. Anything, sir, finally you'd like to add?
No, that's about it. I think I've pled my case to the best of my meager abilities.
Thank you. Any final questions for the applicant? Any questions for staff?
Yes, sir.
One question for the applicant.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree that you have no plans in the future to expand or change this building in any way?
Expand or change? Not at this point. And certainly not without coming and getting a permit and having somebody look at it. I will assure you of that.
Civic education.
Because there was a thought at one point of closing it in and closing it, putting a floor in it, and putting a front on it with a door and windows and things, and taking it from a tool shed to being an outdoor storage as we're trying to finish our basement completely. When we built this house, we moved 3 families into it when my wife and I got married. We had her household, my household, and my father-in-law, because we had just lost my mother-in-law some years earlier, so we moved him into our basement, built a in-law suite down there, so half of my basement is taken up with the 81-year-old bachelor pad.
Well, all I'm saying is, if you do plan to change, I mean, I don't have a problem with necessarily changing it, but I think what we're saying is if it is approved, I don't want to see an expansion.
Oh, no. It won't go any taller, because look, it's as wide in that spot as I could make it. I picked a spot in between that grove of trees, and if you look at the pictures there, especially the ones in the spring and the summer, when the trees had leaves, you can't see them. I mean, it's literally hidden from almost every angle except for straight on. But there was some, and this would be my wife, not my idea, I assure you, to close that thing in, put a door on it, and turn it into a storage shed.
I don't think there's anything that would preclude them from doing that. We do approve this, but I just want to make sure there's no plans for expansion, so that we don't have to grant anything more.
No, sir. We will not. It will not get any bigger.
Okay.
It just may get enclosed, but there again, I'll make sure I come ask all the nice, right folks, and I've learned my lesson. I promise.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Nicer goal, maybe.
Go.
Any other questions for the applicant? Any other questions for staff? And at this time, I'd like to close public hearing. The floor is open for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move to approve petition V09-015, request to allow an accessory structure to encroach into the rear setback with the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain a building permit and pay applicable fees for starting work without a permit. And secondly, the applicant shall remove the original storage structure along Spring Falls Road. Additionally, the site plan dated July 31st, 2007, the applicant shall be tied to that site plan.
Second, discussion. None being heard, I'd like to take a vote. All those in favor of approval of V09-015, please raise your hand. Let the record show that the
variance was passed unanimously.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time. And I guess I will go through the process, Ms. Rainbow. If you point me in the right direction for getting building permits and other things, I'll call you tomorrow. You can tell me what I need to do next. All right, folks, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I've got your yellow card.
09-016, 16615 Freemanville Road. Staff, can please present.
B09016. Requested variance are as follows. Number one, to reduce the rear setback to 25 feet while increasing the side setback to 50 feet. To reduce the front setback to 40 feet and increase the side corner setback to 60 feet. The site, 16615 Freemanville Road, is zoned AG1. The property consists of 1 acre and is located in the Northwest Fulton Overlay District. Currently, the property is vacant and undeveloped. The applicant, Edward Leapart Jr., proposes to subdivide a 6.428 acre lot into 5 lots. Lot number 1, consisting of 1 acre, is located at the corner of King Road, also known as Mountain Road, and Freemanville Road, and this is right along the Cherokee County line. The front yard of the corner lot is defined as the street which abuts the lot for the shortest distance. The side abutting the other street would be considered the side corner. On AG1 lots, the setback of the front yard is 60 feet. The side corner setback is 40 feet. The rear yard is considered the yard opposite the front, and the setback in this case is 50 feet. The side setback is 25 feet. On this particular lot, the front is considered the side abutting King Road, and the side corner is the side abutting Freemanville Road. The applicant states that the lot has topography, drainage, and soil conditions that make it unique. In order to minimize erosion issues and maintain the continuity of the driveways, he wants to flip the front yard and thus the driveway from King Road to Freemanville Road. Mr. Leapart is asking to reduce the actual setback from 60 feet to 40 feet and to increase the side corner setback from 40 feet to 60 in exchange. This would cause the rear yard to rotate as well. The petition further asks to reduce the actual rear yard setback to 25 feet and to increase the side setback to 50 feet. Comments from the focus meeting held on December 4th, 2009 are as follows. Building plan review, site plan review, and the arborist had no issues. DOT stormwater notes the following. At this location, Freemanville Road and King Road are both classified as local roads, so the applicant may have access off either road. The applicant has indicated a justification for variance based on the following factors. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief, if granted, would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good in surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. The applicant states that the lot has topography, drainage, and soil conditions that make it unique. The lot is at the foot of a very long drainage slope receiving the runoff from the peak located at 1,000 feet westerly and 75 feet higher in an elevation. Erosion has created some substantial ditches. Construction of a driveway off King Road would necessitate clearing, substantial grading, and piping where concentrated stormwater flows exist. This will make the erosion worse. Fronting the house on Freemanville Road will help mitigate these factors. Also, this would allow for the driveways of all 5 lots to front Freemanville Road, bringing continuity to this area. Changing building lines would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance, as the applicant is asking for an equal trade. Relief, if granted, granted would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. Public safety, health, and welfare are secured and substantial justice is done. Should the board choose to approve the application, staff recommends the following conditions. The petition is approved per the site plan dated March 25th, 2009. This concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I've got a question.
Staff?
Yes.
Okay, good.
On the, do you ever check with the health department on these issues, on the septic?
We're on hold for a second.
For the variance itself, no, I mean, I just went by what.
So, sure, thank you. Is that first to pass out?
Typically, everything is signed off either by the surveyor, engineer, or Fulton County by the time we see it, so we don't really double check. Professionals.
And is there a preference for more than one of these lots to front Freemanville Road versus King Road? Does it, community really care one way or the other if a driveway is at this location or on King Road?
The community or
The staff,
staff?
I should say.
We didn't have a preference one way or the other. I mean, it, personally, it just makes sense to have them all in the same place. Helps in terms of addressing, actually. Because they all have, an address in the same road.
Any other questions for the staff? Sir, if you'd like to present, please state your name and address for the record also.
I'm Rodney Reese. I'm a land surveyor. My company name is Brumbelow Reese and Associates, and my office is located at 13685 Highway 9, just up the road from Deerfield Parkway. I'm representing Mr.
Rodney,
Lee.
hang on. I just want the board to know that Rodney did all of my surveying stuff for my business in the city of Alpharetta. And if you all think I should be excused, I'd be more than happy to leave.
Did he pay you?
No, I paid him.
No, he
But I
did
just
pay
want
me.
that out before he starts this thing. That
You know what I'm saying.
he did do all my surveying work for me.
Your disclosures on the record.
Thank you.
Sure. Please continue,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you. I'm representing Mr. Lee Park. Actually, he's employed out of the country at this time. So I'm working on this property for him. He's wanting to create 5 subdivision lots. We've been working on this since probably mid-2008. There's been several issues that we've encountered. There were some wells on the property. We had to deal with that. There's some specimen trees that we had to design the subdivision around. And we have pretty much everything taken care of with the city of Milton, with the exception of this request for the building lines to be changed. As far as the Georgia Soil and Water Conservation Committee, we have submitted twice, and we are trying to address their comments, and hopefully this will be the last time they will see it. But what I was wanting to highlight, basically, this is the lot that's at the intersection of Freemanville Road and King Road. King Road is also sometimes known as Mountain Road. It goes into Cherokee County. The frontage on Lot 1 that we're proposing, Freemanville has 264.55 feet. King Road has 209.34 feet. So basically, we have become a victim of the strict definition of the zoning ordinance as far as what would be the front building line or the frontage road. We are requesting that basically Freemanville Road be the frontage road instead of King Road. That way all 5 lots will be fronting on King Road. We are also required to build the Milton Trail. It'll be a gravel trail along our frontage, which is in excess of 900 feet. And in order to do that, we're going to have to regrade the ditch. We're going to have to build the trail. We're going to have to put driveway pipes in. So all of that disturbance is going to have to be done out front. These are lots to be built by individuals. The homes will be built by individuals. But by going ahead and building the ditch and the trail and putting those 5 driveways in, that'll be all the disturbance that I think that we'll have to have right now. But by doing that, we're solving several problems. One, on this particular lot, we encountered bad soils. They're not suitable soils for a septic system. So we had to first place the soils in suitable soils, the septic system in suitable soils. The health department required us to do a fully engineered site plan for this, and they're okay with that. They have reviewed it. We don't believe that there'll be any major changes, if any at all, to get health department approval. The drainage ditch that was mentioned along Freemanville Road, it comes probably the highest point in the city of Milton. And so it's a pretty long drainage way, and that water that's coming down the ditch is not really appropriately sized for the drainage that's coming down through there, but it's actually coming and crossing the corner of Lot 1. Where that water is spilling off the road ditch and into Lot 1 has created beyond drainage problems. It has created a lot of the erosion that's there, we believe. So we feel like that if we are able to place the house where we have shown on our site plan, then we will have very little disturbance in that area, which is steeper slopes. It's fully wooded, steeper slopes where there's a considerable number of gullies that are already washed in there. What I gave you, those the 11 by 17 sheets, those were submitted in your package, but I've highlighted the difference in the required building lines and what we're requesting. And it sounds like we're requesting a lot, but we're basically just rotating the frontage road to Freemanville. In addition to that, I was talking about the drainage. I want to flip this over. And what I've done, I've colored the unsuitable soils on the lot in blue. So you can see that we're greatly restricted where we can place the house and place the septic system. And also we're having to put in a water quality device or facility. So, and we're actually putting that water quality facility in the blue area. But by being able to rotate the building line, we're not going to be pulling the house, we're not going to move it anywhere different than what we've shown. Where we're really being penalized is by the King Road being considered the frontage. Then that puts our western boundary as the rear line. And then if you move on up to the other lots, those are 25-foot side yards. So it's really, we feel like that it'll be a better product. We will avoid some of the possible complications of disturbing the area where there's already severe erosion. And those pictures that I have given, that's just to look at the site. The sheet 1 of the pictures just shows you basically where you're located. Picture 2, I mentioned that the drainage is leaving the roadside ditch and going across the property. I have an arrow up there, and it's where the brush starts, and that's actually where the water is now turning. Once we build the ditch and the equestrian trail, then that should resolve that problem. So I don't foresee there being any more erosion there if we can maintain the root system of the trees that's already in place. 3, I apologize about the pictures. We took them today. We wanted to be current, and the weather was not suitable, so they're not very good pictures. But I tried to highlight some of those gullies, and the roadside ditch is actually, along King Road, is actually on our lot too. That won't be changed. We're not going to go in and reconfigure the ditch section on King Road. We're just going to leave it as it is. But picture 4 is also pointing out some gullies that are located there. Picture 5, the gullies, most of the gullies are to the left. This is staying on King Road, and we're near the northeast corner of the property there. So you can see that it's fully wooded, and for us to go in and try to put a driveway ditch there or to a driveway in that area, we're just going to create more problems with potential erosion. We feel like that this is a reasonable request. It'll provide the connectivity of the project. All 5 driveways and all 5 houses will be facing Freemanville Road, which I know that doesn't matter as far as your decision, but I think it's a better address than the King Road. That concludes my presentation, unless you have questions.
Thank you very much. Questions for the applicant, Mr. Recook?
Mr. Reese, let me make sure I understand. So the frontage you have along King Road is about 165 linear feet.
King Road is 209
209?
linear
Okay.
feet, right.
And the frontage that you have along Freemanville Road?
264.5.
So basically, because it only has 209 feet along King Road, that has to be considered the front.
That's correct.
And you couldn't reduce your frontage along Freemanville Road, because when you did and you moved that boundary line closer towards King Road, you wound up with more of your lot, or less of the lot, having good soil for the percolation.
That's correct. And another thing that we were trying to do, like there's some draws in the back. I mean,
Sure.
We study the site and we try to come up with the best configuration of the lot lines for the future. Really, if you have an area where there's some drainage going there, you want to try to put it along the property lines, and that way you're not spilling water over onto the neighbor. Hopefully, so. There's a lot of things that go into the decision of
critical
creating.
thing, like when I look at how to subdivide a lot, I always think of, I've got to have my narrowest frontage on a corner lot is always considered the front yard.
Right.
And unfortunately, because of the topography and the soil type, you were forced to make your frontage longer
Yes, right.
along Freemanville Road, which is the condition that caused you to ask for this variance. But
That's
you're
correct.
willing to comply with the setbacks, but just in a different direction.
Yes.
So basically, you're willing to comply with it, but you just kind of want the configuration of the front and side kind of reversed.
Yes.
And
also the rear line.
and the rear line, excuse me, because you're right, because the rear line is purely reflection of the front setback, has to be behind the rear. Okay. I
And
just
the
wanna make
rear
sure I
line, the
understood.
rear building line, per
Okay.
definition, is the one that is
Parallel to the front.
hurting us the most.
Right. Okay.
Sir, just for clarification, your company's scope of work on the project is limited to clearing?
No,
grading?
I'm actually the land surveyor.
Okay.
We did all the surveying, the design of the project. We are responsible for getting approval of the final plat through the city of Milton, approval from the Fulton County Health Department. So basically, we provide a professional service for Mr. Lee Park.
Okay. And so the potential homeowners haven't been identified? It's not far
No.
along in the project?
No.
Okay.
It could be one builder, or it could be 5 individual builders.
Right.
Who identified your soil types, just out of curiosity?
Yes.
Who, was it?
The soils that are in blue, the small area, that's Star. Basically, that soil is
Well,
erosion.
no, I'm asking, who did your studies? Who did your
I'm
studies?
sorry. Sam Masadi.
Sam Asadi?
Right.
And can you give me Sam's professional expertise?
He's a professional soil scientist. He's a PhD in soils from Bria.
He's probably the best expert on soil types in the state of Georgia.
He's one of the best, yes. There are several
That's
good
why I
ones, but
asked.
he's one of
There's
the
some
best.
Mickey
yes.
Mouse people out there that kind of do things for That's, you told me all I need to hear. That's the best in the business. That's why I recommend.
Any other questions for the applicant this time?
One other question, just to paraphrase what you said, you said you, in discussion with staff, I guess with the arborist, specifically hammered out the details above and beyond what we're considering here tonight, specifically specimen trees and their protection. There's no, what I'm trying to hammer down is there's no lingering issues that we would have to impose as conditions to approve this variance request outside of what you were asking in order to make it compliant with Milton
No,
Code.
not on the front end. We take pride in knowing what the requirements are, the ordinances, and before we start subdividing anything, we go out and locate specimen trees. We worked with Mark Law, the northern part of the subdivision. The slopes are quite steep there, and we're providing tree save area 50 feet from the rear property line on the 4 lots that are not being considered tonight, and this one will have a 20-foot tree save area on the north property line.
In your professional opinion, this would be a buildable lot?
Oh, yes, most
Any
definitely.
future tenant based on the site plan that you've submitted here
Yes,
tonight?
right. Now, the footprint that we're using, and who knows what size houses are going to be built in the future because of the economy, but the footprint that we have shown there is 60 feet deep and 70 feet wide, which should more than accommodate your typical house. Now, you can't build one of these, $7,000 or $8,000 homes. I mean, not 7,000 or 8,000 square foot homes.
As long as they don't build it too high, right?
Yeah, that might be a consideration.
I don't know what made me think of that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Any public comment? No, okay, just have to do that for the record. Sir, any final comments?
We just request your consideration and greatly appreciate your doing this. We think it makes sense and it doesn't impact the spirit of the ordinance or the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any final comments or questions for the applicant? Okay, any final comments or questions for staff? All right, then at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing portion, and the floor is open for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I would move to approve petition B09-016. Request to reduce the rear setback to 25 feet, increase the side setback to 50 feet. And the second condition to reduce the front setback to 40 feet and increase the side corner setback to 60 feet. And this variance request would be tied to the site plan dated March 25th, 2009.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, I'd like to take a vote. All those in favor of approval of B09-016, please raise your hand. All those opposed, let the record show that the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. My client will be very
Can
happy.
you give a reason for your recommendation, just to be sure?
Too late.
Too late now.
Well, just for the record, I would say, it's basically hardship due to soils and topography of the lot.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree with those.
If you can just reference the,
Yeah, I mean,
the staff analysis, if you'd like.
You made the comments earlier, too.
I'm sorry.
I think they-
I should
this, I mean, you references the standards of consideration in his variance request, so it would be tied to those standards of consideration, I think. Do we agree? Okay.
Yeah. Next agenda item for consideration
Thank
this
you.
evening is other business. Being heard? None being heard, I'd like to move to make a motion to adjourn our meeting for this evening.
We got to take a different date for next month.
Okay?
Do we do that before?
Absolutely. I'd like to remove that motion and go back to other business. And there was a request from staff due to a scheduling conflict with the accommodations to identify a different meeting time. Currently, our scheduled date is for January 19th. And I want to throw out another option.
Well, does staff have any suggested dates?
Conflicts with schedule.
Monday's out, got Wednesday, think.
I I know I couldn't make the Wednesday because I'm on the Soil Water Conservation Service.
What about just another Tuesday?
Ditch them.
I know.
Who kicked us out?
They pay me for attending their meetings.
Transportation people are doing a big meeting with the ARC. They're presenting some kind of plan. Let me see if I can get the city calendar up.
Well, Monday's Martin Luther King.
The council meets on Monday.
How about Thursday?
I can't do Thursday.
That's council.
How about the following
Good.
Tuesday, either move it Tuesday before, Tuesday after, the 12th or the 26th?
Can't do before because that's going to mess up advertising.
Okay.
22nd is free.
22nd.
Well, I'm
26th.
sorry, I'm looking at December.
The 26th of December.
Do we have a fairly light caseload?
We currently have 3 items and one is the school.
The 26th
Oh,
would
you're
work
That's
for
going to
me.
be a long meeting.
One
So,
The school,
actually,
the high school.
that's weird. The city
Stream
council
buffer.
is meeting on the 20th. So the 26th is free.
Yeah, let's do the 26th.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Where's the King holiday? Is that 15th?
18th.
Okay.
Let's do the 26th.
26th.
So the January 2010 meeting will be January 26th at 7 o'clock.
Do we have to elect officers that meeting as well?
Yes.
We don't have
I
to do
think,
Typically, we do at our first meeting for the
I
calendar
think,
year.
well, it depends on whenever the new people are appointed.
Yeah.
So let's wait until the new people are appointed and then we'll figure it out from there.
Because isn't that January 4th?
What do our bylaws say?
January 1st.
Well, let's just say like on.
I think the
yearly
swearing
basis.
in is January
Yeah.
4th.
They're not specific. They're
So
just
if that's
saying
the
new
if
officers
that's-
once a year.
The next meeting, then yeah, we'll elect officers then.
But it would make sense.
If the new person has been appointed by then, then we'll go from there.
Or the same person has been reappointed?
Any other,
New appointments have been made.
any other new business or other business? All right, none being heard, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn our meeting for December 15th.
Second.
Those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed,